Well, hi, this is Custom Works, and I'm Clint Allen. Today we're talking about the IPR, the injection pressure regulator sensor in your 7.3. If you're new, come on, join the community. I've made it easy for you down in the description of this video. We have the full playlist of all the sensors at a 7.3. Almost finished, we just got a couple more to hit on. We have all my tech talks, all of our hands-on, all of our normal videos on the 7.3 and our debunking videos all down below for you to enjoy. So let's move on. Location. Where is the IPR located? Well, you open up the hood. At the front of the engine, of course, you've got the high pressure oil pump reserve tank. Behind there, you've got the high pressure oil pump, and it doesn't make a difference if it's OBS or if it's post 98, California post 97. But either which way, I mean, one was only a 15-degree pump and the other one was a 17-degree pump. So the location is going to be the same. On the driver's side, two of the high pressure oil pump, the first sensor that you're going to see is going to be a temperature sensor. The second one, which is attached to the high pressure oil pump, is going to be the IPR. Now, reasons for these things to go out. One of the biggest reasons is piss poor oil changing, go way past oil changes, piss poor filters for the oil. Basically, the pins get lodged up and locked up. Occasionally, the solenoid goes out. You're also going to want to check the connector, make sure that the connector is making good contact. You're going to have to go through the wires, make sure that the engine wires for the top of the engine wiring harness, follow those up. Follow it down to where the plug is. Follow it down to the ECM. Yeah, I know it's a pain in the ass. Everybody wants the easy answer right away, but this is how you diagnose it. You want to make sure that none of those wires are broke or so far corroded that they basically won't send the signal. If you've been viewing this channel for a while, you know I'm a stickler on putting on a brand new wiring harness on the top of your engine that just makes the thing run much better. Many people, I mean just thousands of people have written in the comments that, hey, I changed my wiring harness. Holy moly, does my truck run good now? There you have it. So let's talk about how this works first. When the IPR is sitting at the start, basically the ECM sets the solenoid so it builds pressure really fast because the engine's cranking slowly and the injectors need X amount of PSI in order to start, usually 700, 500 at the ICP, but at the pump it's usually around 700, 800 in order to get these injectors to fire because it has to send high pressure oil to the injector in order for it to fire the fuel down into the cylinders. Once the unit gets going, once the truck starts, then after that, the solenoid is constantly sending signals based on the ICP, the cam sensor, and the rest of the sensors throughout the vehicles. But the ICP and the cam sensor is the most important to the ECM. The rest of it is just informational data as the engine warms up and as it goes down the road, what the other sensors are saying of what it needs. So that IPR is just constantly moving all the time. I mean, even if you're just at a steady going down the road, there's always a little bit of fluctuation with the IPR. It's just constantly making sure that it is firing those injectors just absolutely perfectly for the pressure that they need. So before we get started with how to analyze, how to diagnose, the different ways of doing this, let's take a look at a video that I made of a broken down IPR, and then we'll also test the solenoid at the same time. So here's an IPR completely disassembled. So we have just the way everything came apart. So you have your nut, your spacer, your solenoid, your barrel. This O-ring came off of here, right here. This sat down in this area. This is multi-directional. Pin here goes inside of here, multi-directional. This right here unscrews, and that came from this section right in here. So a regular screwdriver unscrews that. You just got to make sure there's threads in here, that you don't goober up those threads. This right here unscrews from right here. It's got this little baby pin, so be careful not to lose that. Also keep track when you pull it out which direction. I've got it laying in the direction, but I don't know if the 4K camera can even pick that up. It's so small. But then you got this split that goes right here, and then you've got this O-ring that came off of here. So that's basically the nub of it. So if we were to put it all back together again, we would have had the O-ring. This one inside here. That pin would have went here. Make sure you hold it like that and screw it back in. Now when you're putting it back in, screwing it together, once you hit bottom and it's tight, just a little bit more of a turn, that's all the more you need to go. Then this pin would go in here. Now I'm not going to tighten this all the way up. That goes way down inside here when you get it all finally tightened up. This would go back together right here, which gets screwed in. And of course with your brand new O-ring set, you put that one on, this one on last. So that would be all put together. Your solenoid goes on next, your sleeve spacer goes on, and then your nut goes on like that. Now once you get it on, you don't torque the heck out of this, you just get it snug, quarter of a turn, half of a turn. And a lot of times when we get vehicles in the shop, this nut has fallen off. So do yourself a favor and take whatever you got sitting around, but basically, let's say gasket maker, and once this is on, just put a bunch of gasket maker on the end to keep it from coming off from the vibration. So that's how you handle that, real simple. This right here is the solenoid. This should come in between 5 to 20 ohms. So set up your little meter. That'll make a difference what side here, and just hit each pin. So I'm coming in at 11.3. That's well within the range, 5 to 20 ohms. So we know this is good right here. So it's as simple as that. So that right there is going to help you get familiarized with what's going on inside that IPR as far as parts go. Now, there is going to be a tear down video towards the end showing you how to physically take it all apart, what to use. Getting an idea here of you walk out, you got a no start, and the best thing to do for anybody here that's viewing is load yourself up the app of ForScan, and then also get the Wi-Fi OBDII reader, which is down in the description here. A lot of questions come up. Why the Wi-Fi? Why not the Bluetooth? The Wi-Fi is faster. It's broader. It's able to get information to your phone, to your pad, a lot faster, a lot more intricate than what Bluetooth, even though Bluetooth has come a long way, is the Wi-Fi is just far superior. So once again, down in the description there. So you load yourself up ForScan if you don't have it already, and you pull up the PID for ICP pressure, ICP voltage, IPR duty cycle, and high pressure oil pump, and that's going to tell you the pressure. So you load those all up and you get into your vehicle and you try to start it. Just, you know, 2-3 seconds. You know, we already know it's not running, so 2-3 seconds, and watch basically on that app. And what we're looking for, first off, is ICP pressure, and the high pressure oil pump pressure is, are we getting anything north of 500? If we're not getting anything north of 500, what we have discovered is we have a problem with an injector that might be blowing out. We might have a high pressure oil pump that is defunct, or the IPR is defunct. That's a good way to quickly analyze on a no start and an IPR problem. Even though it didn't tell us specifically it's the IPR yet, but we're getting there. I've asked that you carry an extra IPR somewhere in your vehicle, whether you put it into that, you know, bucket of tools that you carry along in your truck or your toolbox, or in your center column, or in your glove box. We, at that point, have a known good IPR, so pull out the old IPR, put the other one in there, see if it starts up, you're good to go. Then you know that it's definitely the IPR. If you put that IPR in there, the one that you had saved away for emergencies, and it doesn't start, well, then we're left with the high pressure oil pump, and then we're also looking at injectors, but we're not worried about that in this video here. The shade tree mechanic, their way of doing it, and I don't suggest this, but I mean, if you just have no tools, you have, you know, you don't have ForScan, you have nothing, basically disconnect the ICP and get a wrench and remove the ICP. Then take a whole bunch of rags, or, you know, old linens or old towels, and pack her over the top of that. Go inside the truck and turn the ignition on, start cranking, 1001 off. Go back out there. Got a little bit of oil on the rag. You've got no oils on the rag. Once again, we're in the situation again where either we have a bad IPR, high pressure oil pump, or an injector that's blowing out. But we've established that it's in the high pressure system. So we just have those three to deal with. If you do this and the high pressure oil pump is working and the IPR is working, I mean, you'll dump multiple quarts just in 1 second of oil out of that top rail. Then you know everything in that department's working and you need to look elsewhere. Second way of doing it, but you'd have to have this part sitting in your toolbox or set aside, is to deadhead the IPR. So you remove the IPR from the high pressure oil pump, and then of course you'll see right here, this is a deadhead. It's got a couple other different uses, but basically you would screw that in to where the high pressure oil pump IPR goes. Once again, disconnect the ICP. Now this is going to throw some codes, so Don't get all excited. Crank it on over. With the dead head in there, if it fires up, turn it off right away, because we're running the high pressure oil pump at max right now. Right there, if it fires up, you know you have a bad IPR. But once again, this is a part that you would need to purchase in advance and have it sitting around just to do this test. Third, and probably the best way of doing it, is an air test. The air test itself basically takes the IPR, you remove it out of the vehicle, you hook a tube up to one end, you hook up air to the other end, and this video here will show you how to do that. So here's another way to test the IPR, and what we're doing here, basically this barrel is a 1/2 inch diameter, so you would put this rubber hose over the end of the IPR, still allowing these holes right here to be in the open. You don't want to cover that up. Then air compressor, anything that you have for blowing air, just shove in the other end. Some of you are probably going to have to put a clamp on here, but for me this is tight enough, so I don't have to worry about that. Air pressure, I mean low pressure, you know, 5 psi is going to get the job handled here. So air is going to blow out of these ports right here. So now I'm going to take a 12 volt source, low amperage. And you hear it stop. Hear the air stop. That's because the solenoid is closing off the IPR cap. So just like that, that's how we do her. That's how we roll. As you heard, air will come out through here. Once you add your 12 volt source right here, the solenoid reacts, basically sets it to max, and it stops blowing. Right there you know that you've got a good IPR. All right, so I hope you enjoyed that. This is probably the best way to isolate and set the IPR aside if it's good or bad. If you're to hook up the air to it and there's nothing that comes out, then you know right away the IPR is bad. It's plugged up. As you can see, I was using a good IPR. Air is going to come out, and once you hit that solenoid with the 12 volts, then of course it locks it down. So you know everything's working. We already showed you how to test the solenoid, and right there, that's not your problem. The IPR is just fine. So then you move on to, you know, the next, which is the high pressure oil pump and the blown out injector theory. So best way to test it, just the way it was right there. Also, don't forget to do your normal stuff. Make sure that none of the fuses are blown out. Make sure you're getting a source of connection at the IPR from the wiring harness. We're not even getting into numbers here, just a matter of key on, ignition off, and putting 2 probes in there. If you got some kind of voltage, then basically you know that the wires are probably good. That doesn't necessarily mean that the plug is actually good. I've had situations before where we would have a truck towed in, and I can have one of my helpers out there starting the truck while I'm jiggling the wires, and then boom, she'll fire off. And then you push the, after it's running, then you push the wire kind of down and it dies out right away. Then, you know, we got a bad plug there. It's not making connection. And you would just get a different plug and solder it on there, and away down the road you go. So this right here covers the basics and more that you'll ever need to know on the IPR on your 7.3. So I hope you've learned something, and you take it easy, and you have a good day. And don't forget about the video footage after this of how to take one apart. So to break this down, we've got the round O-ring first. Then we've got this nylon next. And that's split. We've got the O-ring at the end of the barrel here. So then unscrew the nut, remove the sleeve, remove the solenoid. Put her in the vise. Snug. Doesn't have to be bleeding oil out of it. Unscrew this. Now there's going to be a little pin right here. Don't forget about the pin. So right there is the pin. Then inside of here is the rest of it that we have to unscrew. So this is where you need to catch the screwdriver. Right in there, just like that. It is really critical that these threads inside here do not get goobered up. Do yourself a favor, put some electrical tape, some duct tape, whatever the case may be, and watch while you're unscrewing it so you're not running the edge of the screwdriver up against any of the threads. Out that comes. That's got the pin. That pin goes in here. And then last but not least, Then you have that. It's hard to see on camera, but this right here was a defunct IPR. The reason, all that gooed up oil. Too long of intervals between oil changes. So all that goo ends up in the back of this right here. Causes it to get locked into place. One of the reasons, but basically what happens is either this or those pins that are inside there get full of crud and then they lock themselves up. So it's just as simple as that. The other video showed you how to put it back together. You're still here yet? It's over. Oh, I know. Go ahead, hit the subscribe button, the little bell, you know, the little bell, and that'll tell you every time I post a new video. Also go root around in my previous videos and you'll find a lot of interesting content. Until then, go home. Oh yeah, the garbage can's over there. You know, don't be making a mess. You know, clean up after yourself. Go, go. Listen closely for an instruction.